Hello guys, in this video I will be explaining you how we can store the data into a random access file and how to update the data which is stored in a random access file. For understanding the concept, we'll do it by taking an example. So we have a small Java code here, and with this Java code I will be explaining you how we are going to update the data which is there within a random access file. So I declared an array of strings like first names, last name, the addresses, the ages and the salaries. The first name of a person is Pavan, his last name is Amar, the address of Amar is Warangal, age is 46 and 50,000, and the name of the random access file is employee.dat, the first argument which I supply into your random access file, and the second argument will specify what sort of operations I do onto the file. So now here I create an object of a class called employee record, and in this employee record, if I can see here, I will be having some variables like last name, the first name, the address, age and salary. And for every variable in the class I declared a setter method and as well as a getter method. Okay, now we'll go here. So now what we do is here I would like to store data first. I would like to store the data first into your file called employee1.dat. So I have an iterative statement, I is equal to 0, I less than dot length and I plus plus, and I call the setter method. The setter method on the first name, the setter method on the last name, the setter method on the addresses, the setter method on the age, the setter method on the salary, and at the end I will be calling the method called as a write method. And this write method is not an overridden method, but we are going to define the method on our own. We are going to define that method by our own. Now we'll see what that setter methods will do for us now. So here what my setter methods will do here, my setter methods will be taking the data and it will be storing the data into the local variables of your class. So in my class I have last name, first name, age, salary and etc. Okay, now and at the end of that iterative statement, as I shown earlier, I am calling the method write. I am calling the method write. So whenever I call the method write on this object of employee record, I send the control onto the method called write method, which will be taking an argument of random access file object, which throws an exception, IO exception, when we are going to handle that exception. Now if the last name is not equal to null, because already we have called the setter method, so last name was initialized. If it is initialized, if we have some data in that variable, I create a string buffer. I create an object of string buffer and I convert that string into a string buffer. Okay, I convert that string into a string buffer. If I can see in the beginning of the class, I declared my last name as a string, but now I am converting that string into a string buffer. So by converting the string into string buffer, the advantage we have is we have some additional advantage on a string buffer, and we can call some methods on a string buffer. So one of the advantage I will be showing here is I will be defining the size to my string. So I say string buffer dot set length of 15. It means that the size of my string is 15, which is a fixed one, which is a fixed here. And then after setting the size to my string, I convert my string buffer and I store into a random access file in the form of characters. So now we can observe the method here. Write characters is a method, and what that method does is it converts the string into characters and all those characters will be stored into the defined random access file. It means we are going to convert my string into the characters while storing the data into a random access file. And the same thing has been applied to my first name, and I set the size here, and the same thing happens to my address. I set the size as 30 here, and then I convert it into a characters, and then we are going to store it into your random access file. Now I will be taking the age, and I store the age by using the method called writeByte, and I store the data. I will be storing the salary into your random access file. Now it is the history of saving the data into a file. Now I would like to read the data, and while reading the data I would like to check whether my condition is satisfied. If my condition is satisfied, I would like to manipulate the data. So again what I do is I again open the file. Now random access file employee with a mode called read and write, where I can manipulate the data. Now I create an object of my class ER. At this line I would like to calculate how many records are there in my file. So for calculating the number of records in my file, I will be taking the help of a method called a size method, and the size method is declared in my class. Now I will see that method. I go to the method down. I have a method here. Right. I have a size, and I call the method size, and what my size method will do is it returns the size of the record. I assume now it has a record. The first name, the last name, the age, the salary now becomes a record. Now as I said earlier, the size of the last name is 15. The size of my first name is 15. The address of my the size of my address is equal to 30, because your Java compiler is going to like a 2 byte, so I multiply it with the 2, so 2 into all those things will define the sizes of my string. Plus I will be storing a salary, and a salary is a floating number, so it will be occupying the 8 bytes, and then I have age, which is a byte, which is going to take only 1 byte. Now we understood what is the content of my method called size, which returns the size of every record. Now I call the method length on the file of random access file. raf.length gives the size of your actual file divided by the size of record will generate the number of records which are there in my file. Now I would like to read the data from the file record by record, and I would like to display on the screen. So for that sake I will be calling a method called read method, which is also defined by me. It is defined by me. Now we'll see the implementation, what that method does for us. I'll go to the method read. And this read takes the random access file as an argument, which may throw an exception called IO exception, and we need to handle that exceptions. Now as I said earlier, the first name, the size of the first name was defined as 15, and the data was stored in the form of characters. So what I do is I declare a variable of character, which is an array whose size is 15. Now I read it character by character. As we know that read character is a method which I can call on a random access file which reads a character. So we read 15 characters, and I store them into the character array, and that character array is now converted into a string, and it is initialized to the variable called last name. Done. Now I do the same here, because I stored that string as 15 characters. So we are going to read character for 15 times, and I store the data into the temporary variable, which is a character array, and then at last we are going to convert that character array into a string. The same thing happens for the address, and for reading a byte, For reading a byte, I will be calling the method called read byte. I will store it into age and the salary. So now we are having the data in last name. I have the data in last name, the first name, the address, the age and the salary record wise, and they are there in the local variables of my class. So now what this method does for us, it reads a record. It reads a record, and whatever the data which is there in the record is displayed on the screen. Get first name, get last name, get address, get age and get salary. As I said, these are the getter methods which will be showing the data on my screen for us. Okay. Now this iterative statement will go till the number of records, Now, after reading all the files, now after seeing whatever the content which is there in the random access file, now I call a method called seek of 0. Now whenever I call seek method on a random access file, what this method does is, it sends the file pointer to the beginning of your file, Now again I do the same here. For I is equal to 0, I less than record, I less than number of record, I plus plus. Now I read a record. As we said, what happens if I read a record? It means now my local variables is having the particular data of that record. Now what I do is, now I want to manipulate the data by searching the data which is there in the record, and my condition is, if the age of a person is bigger than or equal to 55, then I set the salary as 0. If the age is not bigger than 55, we are not going to perform these options. So now if the salary is bigger than if the age is bigger than 55, now I said set salary is equal to 5.5. now, and then now here we'll do a small arithmetic here. Suppose I am there here, my file pointer is there here, at this point. Okay, now when I perform a read action, a read operation, the control will be sent at this point. Now the pointer will be there here. Now again if I perform a read operation, my file pointer will be jumped to the next record. Again if I perform the read operation, I go there, and at the end I will be encountering the end of file. Okay, now we are going to read this first file. Record. If I read the record, it means now the file pointer is there at this point. Okay, now after the file pointer has changed its position, now what I do is, I will be taking the get file pointer. I will be calculating the address of this file pointer minus the ER size. It means I again send my file pointer to the starting position from where I started. It means after doing this operation, now again my file pointer will be sent to this point. Done. And after sending the control here, now we are going to perform an operation called as your write operation. It means now whatever the data which is there in this record is being manipulated by calling the method called as your write method. Okay, after writing the method again, now the file pointer is there at this point. Now I like to see the content of the record, so again I go back there. So for going back there, I say get file pointer minus the size, and then I perform the read operation. Now after reading the operation, now I will be extracting the data which is there in the local variables. Get first name, get last name, get address, get salary. Now I execute the code. Now we'll see what will be the output of this code. Now I execute my code. Now I can see the output of this code here. See here, the first name was Pavan or Amar Warangal. This is my first output, first read operation, and the second, while manipulating the data, if the age is bigger than 55, the salary is 0. It means now I can observe that whatever the content I want to update in my file can be updated by taking the help of my random access file. And one point I would like to make, this random access file can work only on the byte stream. It doesn't work on your character streams. I hope you understood and enjoyed the video.